Hello, friends. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher. Today we're talking about deep roleplay. Now, I'm going to share a link with you to episode 11 of the Barrenlands. And let me tell you what, there was some amazing roleplay that went on. And as a game master, you might be asking yourself, how can I inspire deep, amazing roleplay with my players? As game masters, we want to have awesome roleplay. We want our players to enjoy the game. As game masters, we want to enjoy the game. And deep roleplay, having players really take it seriously, having epic storylines, having awesome things going on, this increases enjoyment. This makes it more of a special experience. But how can we inspire our players to do this? As game masters, what boxes do we need to check off to really get our players delving deep into their characters, exploring deeper concepts, really role playing it out in a high quality, like immersive, emotional fashion? Well, I've got 3 tips for you today. These 3 things are needed if you want to inspire deeper role play with your player characters. So let's dive right into it and talk about item number 1. You need the right players. Let me tell you what, nothing beats taking your time and recruiting really high quality players who are really, really good at actually being immersive, players who want to be there, players who care about the story, who care about the story of their characters and of the story of the campaign that you're creating, the adventure that you're creating together. Finding players who care is definitely the number 1 step, and it's essential. You can only do so much with players who don't really care, with players who don't care about the art, who don't care about immersion. If you care about these things, then finding players who also care about them is essential. So that's just step number 1. Step number 2 is this: you need to set up your players for success. You need to tee them up with amazing roleplay moments. Players can be really creative. They have a lot of control over how fun the game is and how immersive the game is. However, if nothing tees up good role playing, if nothing sets them up to do amazing role play, if there are not complex scenarios, if there are not moral quandaries, if there are not societal things going on that really spark creativity, if there's not a little bit of conflict, if there's not a little bit of social upheaval, right? If there are not any uncomfortable moments, you're going to have a hard time getting your players really immersed into it. If it's just you walk into the room, it's made of stone, there's a monster, roll initiative, right? It's only going to be so immersive. Whereas if you walk in and there's symbols on the door and it turns out that they lead to a cryptic message, and then the NPC is trying to tell you, you shouldn't be saying that out loud. That's sacred in our religion. And then, you have someone over here who's a little bit, they don't like goblins. And so they're talking smack on goblins. And so you have a little bit of like hate, a little bigotry going on. Maybe there's some xenophobia, right? Maybe you have people who have clashing of different customs. Maybe you introduce NPCs who challenge custom beliefs of your player characters. Maybe you have them taking part in a story that's literally driven by some kind of moral quandary or ethical quandary. The more you layer the complexities of your world but then introduce it to the players in a simplistic fashion, the bigger tee up you give them to kick the roleplay ball and really get things rolling. So putting some thought into that, putting some effort into that as a game master is really important. And to be really honest, that's where a lot of the prep work can come in to make it special. So give your players room to basically have those moments of role play. Give them some moments, let them see some things, let them hear some things, let them experience some things. Have NPCs say things to them, have villains say things to them, have them experience things that are going to provoke role play, that are going to challenge them, that are going to make it hard for them to just stay silent and not say anything or do anything. And then when they do say stuff, when they do stuff, you then layer upon that with reactions from the NPCs, with reactions from the animal companions, with reactions from the villains, from the shopkeeper, from the tavern keeper. And then you build on those things. And that requires you as a game master to kind of get into the head of your NPCs, which is an amazing skill to have. And it's an amazing thing that will bring out that role play with your players. So that's tip number 2. Now, before we go into tip number 3, I want to let you know that there's something I want to give you. I actually have a free ebook. It's like my top 10 Game Master Tips ebook. If you want to delve deeper, level up your game literally overnight, I would invite you to join my email list. So when you do, you get this as a free download. I give this out for free because these are the top 10 tips that I've learned over the course of my Game Master career. 20 plus years, 2 decades of running games at this point. And so if you want to level up overnight, grab that for sure. Links in the description. But now I want to talk about the third, and this is maybe one of the most important things. Finding the right players, essential. teeing them up for success, giving them stuff to work with, getting them to a place where there's enough complexity to work with in a role play sense. This is really important, but these two things are only going to do so much good if you do not do this third thing. And the third thing is sometimes letting nature take its course and backing way off. If you watch the episode of the Barren Lands, you'll notice that there were large swaths of time where I just completely backed off and I let the player characters basically lead the story, lead the way. Sometimes game masters get this thought, and I think they do it because they want to be a good game master, but they get this thought: if I'm not constantly talking about something, if I'm not constantly doing something, if I'm not constantly having conflict or interjecting, I'm not running a good game. And I think that game masters have this idea because they want to do enough. They want to work hard at making the game good, but sometimes the best thing for the game is to step back and let the player characters take the lead. And then you just toss in a little bit of what's needed here and there. Sometimes silence is more powerful, especially when the player characters are filling the silence and they're doing it without needing to be prompted or without needing to be challenged any more than they already have. Sometimes giving the player characters one little thing to work with will set off a chain reaction of roleplay that doesn't really require any more input from the game master until the scene changes or the energy dies down. And so sometimes backing off, allowing space, giving it room to breathe is the best thing you can do as a game master. Here at GM Philosophy, the goal is to empower game masters to run better games. And if that sounds like the goal for you, then you're not going to want to miss watching one of these other awesome videos on the channel, because that's what we're all about here on the channel. Thank you so much for coming back to another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. I am the GM Philosopher. I'll see you awesome people on the next one.